Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. At AM 630. WMAL.
7:07 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. Good morning and Happy New Year. Coming up at 7:35, KT McFarland talks about the latest with regard to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Also at 8:05, Grover Norquist from Americans for Tax Reform on last night's fiscal cliff deal. And at 8:35, Representative Tom Price, Republican of Georgia, about that very same fiscal cliff deal.
On this vote, the yeas are 257. The nays are 167. The motion is adopted.
That was late last night in your House of Representatives. If you went to bed at regular time last night, you may not be aware that the House of Representatives voted to approve the proposal that's called the McConnell-Biden proposal that had already been passed by the Senate, and that vote was, as you heard, overwhelmingly in favor of it. But what you do not know by listening to that numbers is that it was 172 Democrats and 85 Republicans that made that the law of the land. Joining us on the phone right now is someone who was there last night, Congressman Chris Van Hollen, Democrat from Maryland. Congressman, what time did you get done last night?
Well, we wrapped up about 11:30 midnight last night.
Well,
just talking to my one of my kids, they said, "What time did you guys finish, Dad?" So at least before midnight.
Well, listen, thank you then for getting up early this morning because we appreciate anybody who works late and gets up early. But I just got to ask you, at the end of the day, it's like everybody was sort of holding their nose. Do you feel really good about what you voted for last night?
Well, we feel good that we avoided going over the fiscal cliff. And that's why you saw a strong bipartisan vote in the Senate. And at the end of the day, a strong bipartisan vote in the House, although, as you just indicated, in the House, the vote was 2 Democrats to every Republican. And Speaker Boehner did the right thing by allowing democracy to work its will and have a full vote in the House.
I do appreciate that.
Finally ban the expression fiscal cliff from our election.
We're all so worn out with it, but I don't think I heard an answer. Do you feel really good about it? Because what I didn't see in this measure, and the thing that sort of troubles me, and I think many of the conservatives who voted against it, was the fact that there weren't a lot of spending cuts here.
Well, as you know, and now we're going back to the history just a couple weeks ago. The president put a proposal on the table that called for $1.2 trillion in revenue from high-income earners and $1.2 trillion in cuts. And at that time, Speaker Boehner obviously concluded that he could not get a vote in his House of Representatives in favor of that. And we know that's the case because he then brought his Plan B forward in the House of Representatives, which simply asked people making more than $1 million a year to pay a little bit more. And that was rejected by his own conference. So the idea of a proposal that included both revenues and cuts was put forward by the president in a compromise proposal.
Well,
and that was rejected. So, look, at least now we've resolved a major issue. We'll keep the middle-class tax cuts in place, and people making a lot of money will contribute more to reducing our deficit.
Well, just briefly, I'll let pass for the moment the fact that many people looked at the president's proposal on cuts and didn't feel like the cuts were real cuts. But you basically feel like having this solution is a good thing.
I think this is a good thing. I don't think that we're finished with the business here, and as we go forward, we need to continue to proceed in a balanced manner, which means there are going to have to be some additional cuts. We should avoid these sort of across-the-board indiscriminate cuts, but we need to make targeted cuts. We're also going to need to look at additional revenue going forward. Look, the big agreement that everybody, at least I shouldn't say everybody, but many of us hoped we would be able to achieve, called for significant new revenue, although I should say a lot less new revenue than is embedded in the bipartisan Simpson-Bowles Commission report, but would be matched by additional cuts. And that's what we're going to have to do going forward to take the balanced approach to reducing the deficit.
Representative Chris Van Hollen is our guest. And Representative Van Hollen, a couple of things that I think that we saw agreement on from both sides of the aisle I'd like to explore with you. The first one is, it seems to me that one thing everyone agreed upon was, number one, that the Bush tax cuts from 2001, for the most part, really benefited the middle class much more than the wealthy, considering the vast majority of the tax cuts that have been retained permanently now. Everyone conceded. Even the president said, thank goodness we've kept these middle class tax cuts. We can agree on that now, right? When all is said and done, that wasn't just a giveaway to Bush-Cheney wealthy friends like we were told back in 2001.
Well, let's be clear. We've always supported, Democrats like myself have supported the middle class tax cuts from that period. The point that we made was that those tax cuts did include a unnecessary big break to wealthier individuals, and now we've corrected for that problem. And it's not just, let's just be clear, it's not just because we want to go around taxing people who have a lot of money. The fact, as you were just discussing, is that we've got a long-term deficit problem.
Yeah, but
is that a revenue problem?
But we didn't address the deficit problem, because this adds $4 trillion to the deficit.
Well, now you're having the numbers the other way. The reason it adds $4 trillion is because the Congressional Budget Office, when they do their assumptions, they assume all those middle-class tax cuts that you just said were a good thing, that they expired yesterday. That's why, if you look at it on what's known as the current policy baseline, actually we raised $620 billion yesterday to help reduce the deficit.
Representative Van Hollen, the other thing I think everyone can agree upon, the president said it in his closing remarks before flying back to Hawaii, was that there is a major deficit problem. The deficit is still too high, and Medicare is the single most troublesome aspect of the deficit, and there needs to be some significant entitlement reform that focuses on Medicare. Now, your counterpart on the Budget Committee, Chairman Paul Ryan, he put forth a very comprehensive fix for Medicare that doesn't hit anybody who's receiving Medicare now or will receive Medicare in the next 15 or 20 years. What is your idea? What have you heard from the president personally where he is going to address this problem that he has identified, that everyone has identified?
Right, and we need to deal with rising Medicare costs, and the difference has been how we do it. My view is that we should continue to move away from the strict fee-for-service system, where nobody in the system really has an incentive to keep down costs, and move to a system where we reward providers and patients based on the quality of care they provide, not the quantity of care they provide. Now, we actually began to take steps in this direction under the Affordable Care Act. Just a few months ago, people were very critical of the president, claiming that he had, quote, cut too much from Medicare. That was the whole debate over the $716 billion savings in Medicare. The difference has been that we achieve savings not by passing on the rising healthcare costs onto the backs of seniors, but by improving the incentive system in coordination within Medicare. A lot of money is spent in Medicare that doesn't go to patient care. And so we believe we can continue to reform Medicare that way, but we do oppose the notion that we're simply going to pass on rising health care costs to seniors whose median income is $22,000.
Well, and thank you for that, but I don't think that Representative Ryan's plan or anybody's plan will pass on the additional cost to seniors who are currently receiving.
No, absolutely it will, because the way that plan worked is they had premium support voucher, call it whatever you want, and the idea was that the senior on Medicare would get a voucher, and that voucher declined in value relative to rising health care costs.
Representative Van Hollen,
anyway, why don't we
we're
all
up
agree
against
that
it.
We're rooting for the Redskins this week.
We are
on
absolutely, and congratulations on your new leader, John Boehner, for rallying Democrats to your side.
Well, listen, I want to say to you, Speaker Boehner did the right thing.
There you go.
Democracy to work its will.
You know what?
I don't think you're helping him.
You're not helping him at all, but we'll send that clip to the Republican caucus.
Congressman Hollen, thank you.